Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Sunday, October 27th. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We picked up an unfortunate loss in the NBA with the Clippers -9, which was available on DraftKings at -110. Overall, it was a great spot for the Clippers. It was the first road game of the season, but they did have a day off. The Suns were on the second leg of a back-to-back, in which they ended up going to overtime in the first leg, and Ricky Rubio, their starting point guard, did not play. So it was definitely a good spot for the Clippers to dominate the game. However, props to the Suns. Monte Williams done a good job coaching over there, and the Suns just came out, punched the Clippers in the mouth, and they won the game outright by 8 points. So, I mean, the Clippers' defense overall looked terrible. The Suns scored 130 points, but we picked up a loss. It's unfortunate, but we will look to bounce back with some NFL football on Sunday. So, switching gears to the NFL, there are a lot of games going on. We're actually going to be giving out. First of all, this video is coming out earlier because I mentioned in the past how I was tired of giving out videos on Sunday in the early morning because of the fact that most of you would wake up and the games would already be about to start, and that's kind of a waste of time. So I decided to make the video at some point at about 1 a.m. I'll try to do this in the future with the NFL and possibly for college football for the 12 o'clock games, as I know some of you want my thoughts on the games with a decent amount of time to get your bets in before the actual game takes place. So that being said, we're actually going to be talking about a game that's going to be taking place at 4:25, and it will be between the Oakland Raiders and the Houston Texans. And in this game, we actually like a player prop on this game, and we'll be taking DeAndre Hopkins over 88.5 receiving yards, which is available at -112 on FanDuel. Now, the main reason why we like this spot for the Texans, first of all, they're going to be at home, so weather will not be a factor as it will be in a dome stadium. But as a whole, Oakland's pass defense has been terrible this season. Oakland currently averages 1.7 sacks per game, which is, let me just make sure about this. Yeah, it's tied for the sixth lowest total in the entire league. So this team does not get after the quarterback. They also just got torched by Aaron Rodgers for over 400 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. This secondary is terrible. They also just traded Garyon Conley, so he's no longer with the team. So the secondary's got even worse. And overall, if you actually also keep in mind of the Raiders' pass defense, the Raiders actually give up the second most passing yards in the entire league per game, giving up 289.8 passing yards per game. So this pass defense is terrible. However, the Raiders' rush defense is in the top 5 in fewest yards per carry. So the Raiders have actually done a pretty good job at stifling the run. They've been terrible against the pass. And with Hopkins, he's the best receiver in the league, in my opinion. I think he is. I think most of you would probably agree. And he's been targeted at least 7 times in every single game. Each of the last 2 weeks, he's been targeted 12 times with 9 receptions. And now that Will Fuller has officially been declared out for this game, that takes another mouth to feed away from the roster as they will look to target Hopkins hopefully even more. You still have Kenny Stills, you still have Kiki Cutie, but Hopkins is clearly the best receiver there. He will be matched up on Darrell Worley, who is definitely not a great corner by any means. He's okay, not great, but Hopkins should be able to get his. Plus, after Watson only had 1 touchdown and 2 picks last week against the Colts, I think he will definitely do a better job against the Raiders as he will look to correct some of the mistakes he made, particularly with the offensive line, who ended up giving up 3 sacks. The Raiders' defensive line, I know they drafted Khalil Ferrell early on. He's been terrible. Max Crosby's been okay. Overall, the defensive lines are not great. I think Hopkins should go for at least 8 receptions or so, probably for 100 and change. If you look at any book, the odds of him getting into the end zone at any time are roughly -130. So I definitely think he will be a huge factor in this game. I think he's going to dominate. I think he should go for 100-plus yards, and I think that 88.5 is a high total, but I don't think it's high enough considering the Raiders' defense. I think Hopkins could easily connect on a 50-yard bomb or so, or just catch a bunch of stuff underneath due to his elite route running, and I don't think they'll be able to run the ball that well with Carlos Hyde against this Raiders front. So the play of the day will be on DeAndre Hopkins over 88.5 receiving yards, which is available at -112 on FanDuel. Now to give out my thoughts on the actual NFL card, I'll cover pretty much all of the games. To start out, we will start out with the London game between the Bengals and the Rams. And my thoughts for this game are few and far between. I don't really care about this game at all. I know the Rams looked good last week, but the Falcons are a complete dumpster fire, and I don't really think that that's a good barometer to determine how good this team actually is. In terms of the Bengals, they are terrible. The Rams are currently favored by 12.5 or so, 13 depending on where you shop, and the total's been bet down from 47.5 to 46.5. If I had to lean anywhere, I would lean to the under And Cincinnati's defense is not great. However, the Rams' defense, I think, has shown something with Jalen Ramsey last week and Aaron Donald. I know Cincinnati's offensive line is absolutely terrible. I think they'll get after Dalton pretty often. A.J. Green's still not back yet, so I question the Cincinnati receiving core. But as a whole, they've struggled to run the ball. They've struggled to throw the ball. And I think that Cincinnati should finish this game with roughly 10 or 14 points, give or take. So I definitely will lean to the under. I think this game will end somewhere in the realm of 28-14 or so. So I would lean to the under in that one. Moving on to the other game between Seattle and Atlanta. I thought about giving out Seattle as the play of the day if I made the video a couple of hours ago. However, once news broke about Matt Ryan not playing for the Falcons this week, which means you get a very rare Matt Schaub sighting. So the over-under in pick sixes thrown by him is set at a half. So keep that in mind, as he has been known to throw interception touchdowns for his entire career. In terms of the game, though, Seattle's currently up to in -8 or -9 in most spots. And even though I think Seattle will dominate this game after Atlanta had a complete no-show last week against the Rams, and it appears that the writing's on the wall for Dan Quinn getting fired in the next couple of weeks, I really just don't think Seattle's that good of a team. I know that they've been dealt a very good hand here with Matt Schaub at quarterback. I'd have to lean to Seattle. In terms of the over-under, it's at 50.5. I would still lean to the over. I know Schaub isn't great by any means, but Seattle's defense leaves a lot to be desired. Got torched by Cleveland, got torched by a couple other teams so far this season. I'm not sold on this unit, and I think that this total's a bit too low. I think Seattle should score at least 30-something points. I think you should see this game get over the 50.5, as I think the market's overcorrected a bit too much with Matt Ryan. So I would lean to Seattle, and I would lean to the over. Moving on with Indianapolis and Denver, have to lean to Indianapolis here at -4.5. The Colts themselves, they've been great. They were great off the bye week against the Texans. I think Frank Reich's the most underrated coach in the entire league. Denver had a complete no-show against Kansas City at home, especially considering the fact that Mahomes got injured halfway through the game and your team still got outscored with Matt Moore at quarterback. Joe Flacco got sacked, I believe it was 8 times, and then you had a fake punt, which led to 9 sacks. I think Indianapolis will get after the quarterback, especially with Darius Leonard back in the linebacking core. He's definitely done a huge deal in terms of solidifying this defense. I think the Colts should win this game by at least a touchdown, potentially by double digits. So I will lean to the Colts on that one. Moving on with the Saints and the Cardinals, I don't have any thoughts. I know Breeze will be playing in this game, but I'm curious how rusty he will be, considering the fact he hasn't played in a couple of weeks. Arizona's offense looked pretty good. New Orleans' defense looked very good. If I had to lean anywhere, I would lean to the under 48. I think New Orleans defense will do a decent job of stopping Arizona from scoring touchdowns and limiting them to field goals. And I question Breeze with his layoff. I think he'll play pretty well, but I think this total is a bit too high. Money has come in on the under, so I will back the line movement there. Moving on, Chargers and Bears. I actually will lean to the Bears here at -3.5. Money's come in on the Chargers, and I get the fact that the Bears were a complete dumpster fire against the Saints last week, but the Chargers just aren't a good team. I know people are trying to argue, saying, well, the Chargers should have beaten the Titans and they blew it. But that's what the Chargers do. They find a way to blow games they probably shouldn't lose. Do I think Chicago will play well with Trubisky? No. But I think this defense will get after the Chargers' offensive line, which has struggled to say the least so far this season. Rivers also been an interception machine. I think Chicago will dominate the field position, and I think that they will run the ball a lot more after only running the ball. I believe it was about 12 times against the Saints last week. I think Chicago will win. I think this game will be close, but I think Chicago should win by about 6 points. Lean to the Bears on that one. Moving on with the Jets and the Jaguars, I have to lean to the Jaguars. This number is a little bit sketchy to me, as it's at 6.5, which I think is a little bit too low. But Jacksonville's at home. C.J. Moses officially out for the year, as he is on IR with a groin injury. Sam Darnold had some toe issues during the week. He will play, but I question how the Jets' offensive line will be able to handle the Jacksonville's pass rush. Lean to Jacksonville on that one. I think they'll win by a touchdown. Moving on, Detroit and the Giants. I'm actually going to lean to the Giants here, plus the 6.5. Detroit, don't get me wrong, should play well offensively at home. Their defense is completely falling apart, and the Giants looked really bad against the Cardinals, but some of that had to do with the weather, as it was pouring rain, and pretty much everything on offense went just terribly wrong. In a dome, I think they'll play better. Do I think they'll win the game? No. I think Detroit will win the game, but I think that 6.5 is a little bit too many points. I would easily lean to the over, though, as I think 49.5 is too low of a total. I think Detroit should get into the high 20s, low 30s, and I think the Giants should score at least 20-something points. So I would lean to the over in that one. Moving on, Tampa Bay and Tennessee. I'm actually going to lean to Tennessee here. I know that Tampa Bay is off a bye, but I still don't trust Winston. Tennessee's defense is still very solid, and honestly, Tannehill didn't look that bad last week. I know that the Chargers probably should have won the game, But Tennessee, I think they'll lean on the run with Derrick Henry. I think that Tannehill definitely looked comfortable in the pocket. I think he will play well once again. Lean to Tennessee. Another matchup between Buffalo and Philly. This line is a huge question mark to me, as the Bills, they've only lost one game, and the Eagles are coming off a complete no-show against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Yet the Bills are only 2-point favorites at home. I'm going to lean to Philly here. I think this line speaks volumes, and I think the Eagles should get the job done. I'll lean to the Eagles to win outright. I still don't trust Josh Allen, as a quarterback. I don't think he's great, and I think Philly will definitely play better after such a no-show against Dallas. Lean to the Eagles on that one. Moving on, Carolina and San Francisco. I lean to Carolina plus the points, and I will lean to the under as well. Based on these defenses, both teams have top 5 defenses of this season, and I think they're going to get after the quarterback a lot. Garoppolo's had some issues with interceptions, and the 49ers will love to run the ball and eat the clock. Carolina, I know that Kyle Allen's been great. He's still going to be the quarterback, but this team starts with McCaffrey and ends with McCaffrey, and they're going to try to run the ball as well. I think this game should end somewhere in the realm of 20-17. I don't really know who's going to win, but I would lean to Carolina plus the points, and I would lean to the under, as I think this game will be pretty low scoring with the elite defenses in it. So lean to the under. Now with Houston and Oakland, lean to the over, and I would lean also to the Texans -6. It's available at 6 in some spots, available at 7 at others. Try to find the best line you can. But the Texans overall, I know that they were poor against the Colts last week. Colts were off a bye, though, so I will give them a pass, as the Colts had an extra week of preparation. Raiders defense got exposed off a bye week by Rodgers. They got absolutely crushed by Green Bay. I think Watson will bounce back. I think he'll throw for 300-something yards, and I think that Houston should score at least 30 points in this game. Lean to the over, and I will lean to the Texans to cover the spread. Moving on with New England and Cleveland, I will lean to the under 43.5. I don't really have any thoughts on the spread itself. I would have to lean to New England, but it is a lot of points. I'm gonna personally pass on that. But I definitely like the under. New England's defense is giving up 6.9 points per game. Baker Mayfield's an interception machine. But Cleveland, on the other hand, their defense is a great no, but their pass rush is okay, as Myles Garrett has the ability to disrupt any game plan. New England also isn't a big play offense. They kind of like to slowly and methodically move the ball, and they're going to run the ball with Michelle, and they'll try to move the chains with some passes to Edelman and stuff like that. Josh Gordon's on IR, but he hasn't played the last couple weeks anyway. I don't think that's really going to change anything. I know they just got Mohamed Sanu, but he's not fully used to the playbook yet. I think that will take some time to get him used to it. I'll lean to the under. I think if New England's going to win this game, I think it'll be pretty ugly. I think they'll win this game 27 to maybe 10. So I'll lean to the under. I think the total's a bit too high. And lastly, but not least, we will talk about the Packers and the Chiefs. I have to lean to Green Bay here -4. It makes sense why this money has come in on Green Bay. Matt Moore coming in instead of Mahomes. I kind of feel bad for NBC, as they booked what should have been a good quarterback matchup turned into a Matt Moore showcase. But I would lean to Green Bay. I actually would lean to Aaron Jones on some props here. I think that after such a big performance by Green Bay in the passing game, Kansas City's been terrible against the run. I think Aaron Jones will play well along with Jamal Williams. I think Green Bay will run the ball. I think they will control the time possession, and I will lean to Green Bay to win by touchdown. So those are my leans on the NFL. Other than that, though, not really many other thoughts on the rest of the card in terms of basketball and the NHL. So the play of the day will be on DeAndre Hopkins over 88.5 receiving yards, which is available on FanDuel at -112. Other than that, though, that's going to be this installment of Scott Selections here for Sunday, October 27th. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.